And we're back.
I thought
So
Instagram gave you a countdown, so I was like,
yeah,
I was like, this is gonna come up any second, and then all
yeah,
of a sudden, boom. Okay, so the
yeah.
last thing I heard you say was you've learned that you don't like meaningless hookups.
Yes, because to me, it's like we do the thing and then now it's over, and it kind of takes away, to me, the sacredness of intercourse, or at least that kind of exchange with somebody. And I don't, and not to say using sacred in a religious text. It's just in that sense you are at one of your most vulnerable states.
Yeah.
So for you to go out there, I mean, not, I don't want to ever, I don't want this to come out and have it be like I'm shaming anyone for going out and having as many partners, because everybody has their own values, you know?
Yeah.
And if they want to go out and connect with as many people as possible, good on you, have your thing. Be safe and healthy, obviously, but, you know, do your thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to me, for me specifically, I need to have a all-around connection to the person as opposed to just that.
Yeah. And you learned
Because
being with men.
yes. So my goal, which sounds bad, was to like even out my numbers. So I had wanted to be.
You got some OCD. Up here.
Well, it was
I
for kind of a good.
I need to.
Yeah. So like I needed to make sure it was at like. You think that you think I only had, anyways.
Throw a number out there, bro. That's not.
Okay, I was saying, oh, y'all think I'm so pure. I love it.
No, I honestly don't, but I didn't want to like
put me out there. I'm not a hoe, but I mean, I'm not. But I wanted to make sure, like, if I did go that route, I had to make sure that I was sure, you know, in a sense.
To be fair, one person's not going to do that for you.
Right, exactly. And it's kind of like I had to figure it out on my way. But even then, like, it's still, to a certain extent, it's like I still had to build that. From me trying to figure myself out, I learned how much more I take, or how much more weight I put on actually understanding and caring about the person, as opposed to just being selfish, because I'm innately a selfless person. Yeah. I care way more about other people than I do about myself, which actually ended up becoming a health problem to an extent. That could be another video for another time. But it's something I learned, definitely, that it's okay to give, but it's also okay to be selfish sometimes. It's okay to take your time to be with yourself, do things for yourself. It's okay to do that too, in moderation on both ends. Because I've also learned, like, very recently, that the more you give out to not only people but kind of like the universe, depending on your beliefs, isn't really, you know, just for me, like, the more you give out to the universe, the more you will receive. And I've been expressing myself verbally a lot about my opinions recently, and in turn I've been receiving a lot of like strong gut feelings and strong like positive feedback from people. One to include last night, and just in general, just receiving a lot of positive things. And it kind of just affirms to me that it's good to give out to some meaningful parts of yourself to receive meaningful parts back.
For sure. That's actually really interesting, because I kind of feel the same way. Like, I don't have a whole lot of experience on the female end as far as like physically to go by, but like I kind of feel like I can't see myself like just going for a hookup.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I think it's different because, well, I thought it was different because I'm just like getting older now too. Like going back to the original like piece of where we even jumped off of, like generationally or whatever, or like just age wise, like, because I did that back in the day. I mean, I've had my period of like, I just need
okay,
to...
but like there's still, you can't use age as a thing, because I mean, not to discredit it, but it's like there's still like older women who out there that just getting what they need and going.
Oh, I know, but
it's crazy.
And what?
It's crazy.
I know, but I just like in my head, that's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe I'm just like old now, and I can't, like, for me, maybe it was just like that was cool when I was like 20 something, but like to do it now, dang, I wish the sun had been there this whole time. Like to do it now, I just feel like is almost weird. But like I, again, not to like talk about anybody else because I know there are people that are like that, but I couldn't see myself doing that anymore either. Like there's no way I could do like a, which sucks because I think that like for the whole dating apps and all that stuff, like I feel like a lot of that is specifically for that, like just to hook up. And I'm like, how do I even like?
I think the apps themselves were built to create relationships. It's what people put into it and the culture they created around it is
Right.
what spawned the hookup culture. Because again, the guidelines for the app was like, you know, you're meeting your Tinder match, like your date, like you want to go on date and make relationships out of it. But the culture people brought to it was hookup culture.
Yeah.
So these people make these apps for a specific intended reason, and how it's used is not on them. It's literally on other people and the culture everyone brings to it. So for somebody to blame the app itself for their problems is wrong. It's ridiculous. It's blaming something else for what people are doing to it. Because I've seen like there are still like Tinder, Bumble, Hinge. Well, there's one that's like straight up just actually called a hookup app. But like, you know, it's in the title, so you know what it's about.
That's the expectation it's setting.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is what it is.
Right. Hook up
So,
and that's
yeah.
it. I don't want that one. So whatever that one is, make sure that I never have that.
Okay.
Not that, I mean, I really don't see myself going that route, but.
Hey, people get lonely, man. It happens.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about, like, so you and I are pretty close in age, but I'm still, like, older or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted
Relatively.
Huh?
Relatively, yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about differences in, like, relationships between, like, how things go for you versus how they are, not for me at this age, but how they were for me at, like, 20, 22 years old.
Mm-hmm. So you want me to give my perspective first, or do you want to give yours first? Because I can give mine first, because I have quite a few opinions about it.
We can roll however you want to.
Well, I think from my age perspective, I think a lot of people my age are kind of not sure even what a relationship really is. So a lot of them, they just kind of jump into something because it makes them feel good immediately.
Yeah.
And it's like the biggest thing I see, like the word that always pops out of my head when I think about nowadays relationship is instant gratification. It's like I jump into this because it's like, that makes me feel good now, and then they don't have the mentality of creating longevity within a relationship or just even in their own life in general.
Right.
So a lot of them jump into relationships that made them feel good in the beginning, and because they felt obligated to this person because they've said so many emotionally based things, which isn't a bad thing to say, emotionally based things, but like saying purely emotionally based things and not truly verifying if it's how you actually truly feel and not just going with the first gut instinct or the first feeling you feel. Now you've 3 months in said you love each other. Now you're stuck and you're obligated, and then you're in this relationship because you feel obligated to this person because you feel like I feel bad if I break up with this person because we've already said these things to each other. But it's like you didn't take the time to actually discover your feelings. You kind of just felt the first one and were like, "Ooh, that's the one." And then you just took it and ran.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them fail.
Yeah. And then there's like I feel like you're absolutely right, but I also feel like communication is a huge lacking factor because like if those things were discussed, it might have been either avoided to where it's like, okay, this is just a hookup and we both know that and then we can go on our merry way, or you can, make the plans and make the arrangements and make the foundation to what a long-lasting relationship could be.
Yeah, you could. And I think that's another thing too, is like not just communication, but honest communication. Like
say that again for the people in the back.
The honest communication where it's like you say something because it needs to be said and you like need to understand each other. Like, I'm only saying this because it has to be said, not in like a rude way where it's disrespectful, but like say it because it needs, like, this is something we need to like confront. And I think we really just kind of say things to sugarcoat's the word that comes to mind, like sugarcoat things to each other, or kind of say things to kind of not hurt the other person's feelings. But like if I'm telling you something from me,
Yeah.
I'm telling you because I care and I want you to know that this is what I've seen, and I see better for you. Or you're doing really good here, but like you could improve here. Like, you're not saying, not diminishing any work you've done, but you could also improve by doing this as well. Or you're like, hey, you got to pick up the slack on this area. Like, we got to talk about it. But like, it's all about how you say it too.
Yeah.
You know, there's like that. There's a balance you got to have with it.
Yeah. Well, it's weird talking to you because I know how well you communicate, but I feel like if we're talking generationally speaking, I feel like communication, I feel like my generation was like the last generation for hope on authentic, genuine, uncomfortable, important communication. I feel like now is a text message or Facebook or Instagram, which is great. I mean, I'm on social media. I'm not trying to knock it, but I also think it takes away from having those interactions that are so important, because so much can be lost with talking face to face, and also so much can be destroyed on like a simple text message.
Yeah.
I used to have conversations with people, but now I feel it's like so weird to talk to people anymore, even though that's something that I love and I crave and I thrive off of, is communication.
Right.
Now I'm like, how do I even talk to you? Because unless I've already known you in that way, like, it's harder for me even to communicate and have those kind of conversations with people.
Yeah, I don't text people. I just don't. I just don't talk to people because like, or I don't talk to them over like messaging, because I already have a very mono, like, dry tone, and people kind of are off put by that because they're like, was he serious? Was he joking? I can't tell. I'm like, don't worry. Most of the time I'm joking. But like, I don't text because I get a better read off of people face to face, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, I get a better read because I can be more genuine to them if I can understand what they're saying and I understand their body language and certain kind of behavioral aspects of their conversation. Like, I can kind of understand what I can and cannot say. But with a text message, I can't read that. I can only go based off of what people say. And there's always, and I can read between the lines, but between those lines, there's so many things that could have been intended or said that it's like, I don't even want to put the time into it because there's like 85 different stories I could have told myself with the information you didn't give me.
Right. Put a pin in that. Things you could have told
Yeah.
me because of stuff that goes unsaid. Because I talked about that in one of my, actually I think in my last one, I talked about how, like, I can't know what I don't know. So if there's a problem and you never tell me about it, but you stay mad at me or even break up with me in any way, shape, or form, whether you're my friend, you're my girlfriend, whatever, like, that's your fault. You know?
Right. I mean, yeah, and I think that's the thing is, like, people that come in, for you specifically, people that go into your life, they have to know, like, transparency is the key to, like, understanding you. Like, if you don't like honesty, or if you don't like, I don't want to say honesty. I do want to say honesty, but if you don't want to hear the truth and all the bad things that come with it, don't go to Shauna.
Say that again for the people in the back.
Like, but on top of that, on the other end, like, it's not like you're only going to give your opinion. Like, if I say, I just need a vent, I don't want you to say anything, I just want to say something. And then you're like, okay. And you don't say anything. Yeah. Like, you just kind of like let it happen. And you're like, cool. You just listen and listen. And it's like that active listening. Some people just need that. But like, it's not that it's not available. It's not that it's not available with you. It's just that it has to be specified beforehand. Because if it's not specified, your go-to is, here's what I got to say.
Yeah. That's fair.
And it is what I mean, but again, that's understanding you. So
and
that's
in order
why.
To understand me, you have to have communication, conversation. Like, it just has to be a two-way street. Like, I'm going to treat you how I want you to treat me. And if I come to you with like a problem, and that's the thing too, where I have creates tension on my list, and I can't remember exactly what we were talking about before, but I know that for me, what that means is that, like, with this age of texting and all that stuff, like, it's already awkward to build a new relationship when things are like, hee hee, hi, nice to meet you. But like, when you get into like these uncomfortable situations where maybe somebody hurt your feelings or something like that, like it's so important to have that. And
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, man.
It's a lot of like technology for me, or like social media itself is a lot of I can get everything in this world instant communication with a couple clicks, and I get it right in front of my face.
Yeah.
And people expect that out of each other as well, but there's different approaches you got to go to it. Like I can't go up to somebody and expect them to pour their feelings out for me, or I can't expect them to tell me everything that's on their mind. I can't expect them to tell everything. You have to take time to get to know the person.
Mm-hmm.
But technology is the opposite of that. It's all about instant, fast now. I personally hate the personification of social media because it's like, it's not a mindless being. It's like we're all people contributing to it. If no one contributed to it, it wouldn't have the power it holds. So you got to understand there's actually a person on the other end of that. And I think people forget that.
Yeah.
So
it's literally under our control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why my favorite button on every social media or every outlet is block. That's my favorite button on everything.
I like that button too. But I mean, so here's another thing. We never used to be able to block people. Somebody will show up at your house like, oh, you don't want to talk to me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that creates a weird line too. Like, okay, so for example, breaking up with somebody. So if you just went through a breakup, I know, like for me back in the day, you go through a breakup, you call somebody 20 times in a row, right? If they don't answer, you show up at their door. Provided you care about this person and you're trying to fix it. But now there's social media where it's like, okay, I'm gonna just block you, and then that's where people was like, well, she blocked me, so you know what I mean? Like, she blocked me, so I'm done. Or not blocking them, because I have done that, like purposely not blocked somebody because I'm like, I want you to see what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and that's so like in your face too. Like it's just, so that puts like a totally different spin on like how do you break up with somebody now with all of this crap, you know?
You make them feel feelings and then you ghost them and you just don't talk to them ever again. You don't actually get into a relationship.
Well, you were talking about me being petty.
Yeah. I'm kidding. That's totally a joke, everyone. But breaking up, I don't know. Because the last two relationships I was in, it was like a constant fight back and forth of like texting and like messaging between are we together, are we not? And it was mainly me trying to fight for something that was already dead, you know? And there's that thing where I wanted the constant communication, but it was both times it was somebody who was just like not with it anymore. Yeah. And that's where I had to step back and take it out of myself, where a relationship is not, what I want out of a relationship is not everything that's encompassed in a relationship. I had to take into consideration what they wanted out of it. Or at that point, what they had already gotten out of it and that they're over. And I think it just kind of, it's learning through the communications, like the communication avenues, like figuring out when to know that something is dead. And the knocking on the door is the text messages. Okay. The constant text messages. It's the calls. It's the finding messaging on Instagram, messaging on Twitter, messaging on Snapchat, messaging on Facebook. If you get messaged on every single social media app you have, that person is constantly trying. However, there always are like, what's the word? Exceptions. Like the outliers where it's like, yeah, exceptions. Where it's like, okay, something's not right. They should not be doing all this. Like there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. So this is not normal, and that's when the block button comes in handy.
So two things that like I'm thinking about when you're saying that is for me, generationally speaking, back to how we even started this conversation, was like, for me, text messages are not an effort. I don't need to knock at my door. The fucking knock at my door is the knock at my door. You know what I mean?
Right.
But also, is it different for women versus men? Like, do you think that the text message is an effort? Like, is that like a dude's mentality, or like, is that a generational thing?
That could be a dude's mentality. It could be. But that also, I think a lot goes into that too. I think it could be like how you were raised. Like, because I know people personally that I've like, I would text somebody like, hey, I'm here. And they're like, oh, you're not going to come to my door and knock on my door. And I'm like, oh, you're right. I'll go up in there. I'll be there.
Right.
And then I have people who are like, why are you knocking on my door? Why don't you just text me? And I was like, all right, I don't know what to do here. But I think it's just, it really is like how you're brought up and how you're taught to build relationships and friendships with people. And I think the biggest thing is having those moments, like the friend that told me, why aren't you knocking on my door? Like having that comment or saying that out loud, telling me like, that's just how it is. Like that's how I expect our friendship to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that's a big thing. But I would say it's probably a dude's mentality, because for dudes it's like, oh, you don't want to text me back? Cool, that's fine. I'll text somebody. I'll find somebody else on whatever dating app somewhere else, or I'll just go out somewhere and find somebody else quick. I think the females aspect, from what I've seen or from what I've gathered, is like, and the effort that you put in is going to be already like, it's kind of already, I expect, like for the females I know, like they already lay out like what their expectations are of a friendship or relationship. Like this is what they expect out of effort. And I think they're showing them effort the way they want the effort to be shown is kind of what means more than you just pushing your idea of what effort is. Because it's like kind of saying, I don't really care what you have to think. I don't really care what you think effort is. It's here's how I put in effort, which is like, okay, well, I get that, but if you want this to be a long lasting, from the females saying this, like, all right, well, if you want this to be long lasting, you're gonna have to put in the effort that I expect, or we could find a happy middle.
Yeah. Do you find that who's better at communication? Do you think, if we're talking females versus dudes, who's better at communication?
Honestly,
yeah.
Neither one.
Why do you think that?
Well, I think it just depends. So,
I do think it depends too, because
emotional communication and emotional honesty, women are way better at it. Because they are used to it. They're used to that type of communication. But dudes don't have that at all.
And in that comments, well, go ahead.
Yeah, like dudes don't have that emotional range. It's either happy, sad, mad, horny, and that's it.
Happy, sad, mad, horny. All right, cool. Simple.
And it's simple, but it's kind of frustrating because it kind of lacks depth at the same time for certain people who require depth out of a communication. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I also think it depends on the relationship.
Yeah.
Because under normal circumstances, or not normal, let me not say normal, but under basic men versus women, I think, yeah, women are probably better. But I just got out of a relationship with a female where the communication was practically non-existent, and I'm like, okay, I could have been with a dude. Like,
yeah.
So it's just like, so that's where I was like, kind of like, okay, well, that's interesting, because I do feel like the place that you hold in that person's life can also have like a determining factor on how they communicate with you.
I think it also depends on where you, what side of the masculine femininity range you fit on. Because if you acclimate to the masculine side, people tend to fit all the stereotypes that go with it. That if you have the masculine thing around you, you have to kind of just be the strong, no emotions, only actions type of person.
Yeah.
But if you have the feminine, it's like, I have to open up to this person in the emotional way that they need. And I think that's something that also has to be taken into consideration. Depends on how that person floats on that level, on that range, you know?
Yeah. How do you think that, where do you think your part in, what am I trying to say? Can you just read my mind real fast and answer my question? Like your place in any given relationship, like what would you say?
Where do I like to make my domain at? Where do I like to stand in a relationship? Like as far as a dominant person or a submissive person?
That, see? Told you.
Yeah, it happens. I fluctuate. It depends on the person. I play both ends to some extent. I can be either like I can either be a take charge kind of person and like take the reins and go for it, or I can be I'll let you take the reins and I'll sit and back and support on that end. And I think it just depends on the type of person that I'm with at that time. Because if they're more dominant, then I'm going to be like, all right, you do your thing. But if they're more of a submissive person, I'm like, okay, I'll take the reins, let's go. It just depends. But that's just me. Most people like to fit into more one or the other. But I think I find more peace somewhere in the middle because it allows for flexibility in a relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah. I like that. Because I'm kind of the same way. Like, I think I would actually prefer somebody else to be like, take charge. But like, if the moment comes, like, I have to be able to have my checkpoints too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just like, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm that way with my friendships. I feel like I'm that way with my relationships, but I don't feel like I'm that way with my friendships. Like my friends feel like I'm
dominant.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. But also not. Because, like, I don't know. Maybe I am.
It's because, no, but it's, so what it is like you want, you don't want you want to empower your friends. So your way of empowering people is by, like, being dominating, in a sense, does that kind of make sense? Like, you like to empower people by, kind of taking over, like, no, that's, kind of, what's it called? There's like, it's a word for it, but there's like a whole process of like certain types of people's thinkings, but it's like a refiner, like the no person who's like able to say that's a good idea, that's a bad idea. But that what is it?
We're on a roll today with our word.
Yeah. What's that word? It's like the critical person.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. But like my core group of friends just know how I am, so I don't have to worry about it. But like, I get where you're trying to go with it, but I can't put my finger on that word that you're thinking of either.
Yeah.
Like, I'm supportive by being like
overbearing.
Sure.
That's not the word either. But like it's like the mama bear thing.
Oh yeah. I'm for sure a mama bear.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to like the three of us, you know, your three sisters, like, I'm definitely, well, when it comes to, I'm like the dad.
Yeah.
And the pink heart is like the mom, and the purple heart is, you know what I mean? But like,
yeah.
I feel like I'm always like the dad in our little friendship or whatever. So I get what okay, I see where you're going now with it. I was confused at first.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't spit it out right, but it's whatever.
Well, one thing that's different between the two of us, well, because like I literally like jumped into a relationship with a female, like, and was there for 5 years. So now I have like a full decision to make about whether or not, or when, or whatever the fuck I'm gonna start dating. I'm scared about that.
I have yet to find somebody that I truly like. It sounds so bad. Like I just set high standards that are kind of unrealistic. I would even find them unrealistic for myself. So it's kind of like it's really bad. It's really bad that I have those high expectations, but I just do, and it's like I kind of self-sabotage myself in that sense, where I don't give anybody the chance to really be themselves sometimes. And so it's kind of like you know what, I would say I used to do that. I think I've kind of started to let people be themselves more, and it's not because at the end of the day, someone's coming to my life bringing their whole story. Who am I to try to determine how important what their story is, like how important what parts of their story is? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I had to do a lot of growing on that aspect, where it's like who am I to jump into this person's life and say these parts of your life are more important to me than these other parts. I think you're important to me, regardless is a better way to say it. I want to love somebody for them and what they bring to the table overall than being picky and choosy about what I like and don't like.
Yeah.
I just haven't really haven't started giving myself the time to try to go out and branch out and meet people and try to find a relationship because, again, I don't think I'm ready to be.
You still have put yourself out there. Like, you had a Tinder thing.
Yeah, with
it. Here, too?
Huh?
Didn't you have a date here, too? Like, where you are?
I went on it was like a date kind of thing-ish. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a date, but it was just kind of like a meetup. And it was out in public, and it was back home. So it was like, to me, I mean, that was kind of a safe space, though, because it's like, if somebody from home saw me, it's like, it didn't matter because I'm going to come back to them. You're not going to ever see me again. And you never even talked to me before, so it doesn't matter. But, like, being on a date in public was one of those, like, heart-dropping but also really exhilarating moments in my life because it was like, I'm really out here on a date with a man, and it's, like, different. And, like, I've obviously, like, I saw other people, like, looking, but I just kind of stopped caring. Like, that's when I was like, it was mainly couples too. So that was what I saw. It was like other people who were like on friends out or whatever, like it didn't matter. But when it was couples, I kept looking over. I was like, why are you worried about us? Like, you guys have each other right there in front of each other. And like, you're trying to worry about us.
Right.
What's wrong with you guys? Are you guys okay?
Yeah.
So
what did you do? Where did you go? I didn't.
We went to Applebee's, which is not really a date place, but like, it was still, I don't know, it was just an Applebee's, and it was fun. We got to know each other, just talk for a while, and then went our separate ways, and that was it.
I have so many things happening in my head about that. Mainly just because I'm like, what is this single life? And
well, because on top of it, it just depends on the person too. Because some people want to actually go out and go on dates and be swooned and all that stuff, and some people just want to wham bam, thank you ma'am, and that's it.
Right.
And it just depends on the person, and it depends on the communication.
But I feel like for now, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover, and then we can always do this again because I've had fun.
Yeah. Depends on the feedback you get from it for sure.
I don't give a fuck. If I want to talk to you and record it and put it up, I'm going to talk to you, record it, and put it up. You're my brother.
Big facts. Okay. I'll take that too.
Anything else, bro?
No, I pretty much bared my soul on this thing.
For sure. Are you excited? Are you nervous?
I would have been more nervous had I not had that conversation last night, but now I really don't care. It's kind of like it's about time.
Dope. I like it.
Long overdue. Past due. We'll find out what else we can talk about in the future, but I think this one will be a good one for people to hear.
And I think that for me and myself and my content or whatever you want to call it, like goes with everything. Because I'm always like, listen and communicate, trust your gut and your intuition, love yourself, and like, whatever. So
right.
I think it goes with everything.
Yeah, I love me.
It sounds funny, but it's so important, and I'm so said that. I love you too. I love you too.
I love you too. Yeah, it is what it is. We here. We out now.
Where's your flag? Do you have one?
Not with me, no. I apologize.
I think it's in my room, actually.
I think it's in the store still.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to go to the store.
But yeah, it's been real fun.
I had fun. This was fun. I like this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to have more people come on and talk to me.
And then bring me back because we have other things to talk about too.
Oh, we do. Do we need to take notes?
Better ones, and we need to stick to the script.
All right. Okay, bro. Love you.
Yeah, love you too. Bye.